interaction by attachment. And we have read the first three paragraphs, um, in which Bhishma Deva has started his address by explaining the Varnashram Dharma, and uh, he has basically pointed out the nine qualifications, the nine important qualifications for any human being to be considered as a member of the Varnashram Dharma. So these nine qualities are not to become angry, not to lie, to equally distribute wealth, to forgive, to beget children only by one's legitimate wife, to be pure in mind and hygienic in body, to not be inimical towards anyone, to be simple, to support servants or subordinates. And if we analyze this a little bit, we will we can take various examples of various atrocious people who have appeared in the past in the history, and we can see that they are not a part of the Varnashram Dharma. So you could take the example of Adolf Hitler, you can take the example of Stalin, you can take the example of Roosevelt, and there was one more prime minister of UK during the World War II. I forget his name. He's a very Churchill, Winston Churchill. So all of them, if you see, some way or the other, they are not following these principles, and that is why they are not to be considered as one in the Varnashram Dharma. And we also know that there have been several cases where, especially in the US, where slaves have been traded, blacks have been traded as slaves, and it is not following the last principle to support servants and to support subordinates, to have children from other women who is not our own wife is also not following the Varnashram Dharma. So we can see the Mughals, all the Mughals, they basically plundered and they assaulted and they harassed all the villages wherever their armies went, and several countless women were raped, several countless women were burnt alive. So all of these are basically an indication that they are all human beings outside the Varnashram Dharma. So Mlechas, Yavanas, all of them are not considered to be Varnashram Dharma. So this is the basic qualification, the nine qualities that a human being who wants to be considered within the Varnashram Dharma has to exhibit. Now, apart from these nine, these are the basic nine. Apart from these nine, depending on the various varnas, some certain other qualities have been prescribed. For example, the Brahmanas, the intelligent men, they need to be, for the intelligent men, this is the line, for the intelligent men, controlling the senses is the most essential qualification. So once you control the senses, automatically all the nine are automatically fulfilled. And by controlling the senses, yeah, so for intelligent men, controlling the senses is the most essential qualification. It is the basis of morality. Sex indulgence, even with a legitimate wife, must also be controlled, and thereby family control will automatically follow. An intelligent man abuses his great qualifications if he does not follow the Vedic way of life. And this means he must seriously make a study of the Vedic literatures, especially of the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. For learning Vedic knowledge, one must approach a person who is 100% engaged in devotional service. He must not do things which are forbidden in Shastras. A person cannot be a teacher if he drinks and smokes. So these are essential qualifications. In modern day, we see in modern days that a person should not become a teacher if he drinks or smokes. In the modern system of education, only the academic qualification is seen, the moral qualification is not seen, and that is why so many times we have seen the intelligence getting misused in several ways. Then in the next paragraph, Prabhupada has explained the duties of a Kshatriya. So the Kshatriya, or the people from the administrative class, the first and foremost advice is that they should be giving charity on, and they should not be collecting charity in any circumstance. So we see that all of the political parties, all the political system that we have prevalent throughout the entire world is basically the reverse of what is explained by the Lord as Bhagavata Dharma by Bhishma Deva to have a proper human life. So we see that the administrators should not pretend. So again, Prabhupada has written it in italics. The administrators should not pretend to become non-violent, and thereby, if they become non-violent, they will go to hell. So Arjuna as well, we see that Arjuna also had the Hridaya Daurbalyam, and uh, Lord said that Tyaktva Hridaya Daurbalyam, Uttishta Parantapa. So, O Parantapa, O killer of enemies, please get up and just get rid of all these Hridaya Daurbalyam, all these, what do you say, the unwanted feeling of the heart, the weakness of the heart. So the Lord degraded Arjuna at that time to the status of an uncivilized man, as for his avowed acceptance of the cult of non-violence. And it is said, Prabhupada says here again in italics, is that in fighting, the king or the president should never return home without being hurt by the enemy. So a Kshatriya, a proper Kshatriya should be engaging in war, and in the war, you will be getting wounded. So without a wound, if a Kshatriya is coming back, it is that Kshatriya becomes a laughing stock. So, ideal king or ideal president should participate in the war and should not come return back uh, without being hurt. Now we see that nowadays the rulers or the so-called administrators, they never participate in the war. Only the army goes and participates. So it's all the reverse. Kali Yuga is the entire reverse of the entire Varnashrama system. As soon as the administrative class, last line of the third paragraph, as soon as the administrative class is turned into a gang of mercantile and laborer men, the whole machinery of the government becomes polluted. So whenever we see that the Vaishyas and the Shudras are given the opportunity to rule over a kingdom, the entire government becomes polluted. Now we'll read from the fourth paragraph about the Vaishyas. The Vaishyas, the member of the mercantile community, are especially advised to protect cows. Cow protection means increasing the milk production, namely curd and butter. Agriculture and distribution of the foodstuff are the primary duties of the mercantile community, backed by the education in Vedic knowledge and trained to give in charity. Again, charity is prescribed for mercantile community because they are developing the wealth, and this wealth is used to support the kingdom. This wealth is used to support the brahmanas, and this wealth is supposed to support the shudras as well. As the Kshatriyas were given charge of the protection of citizens, Vaishyas are given the charge of protection of animals. Animals are never meant to be killed. Killing of an animal is a symptom of a barbarian society. For a human being, agriculture, agricultural produce, fruits, and milk are sufficient and compatible foodstuffs. The human society should give more attention to animal protection. The productive energy of the laborer is misused when he is occupied by industrial enterprises. Industry of various types cannot produce the essential needs of the man, namely rice, wheat, grain, milk, and vegetables. The production of machines and machine tools increases the artificial living fashion of a class of invested interests and keeps thousands of men in starvation and unrest. This should not be the standard of civilization. So a civilization is something which basically keeps the interest of everyone in mind and basically avoids or basically prevents anyone to starve or anyone to be having an restless mind. So basically, everyone in this world is working just to secure the next meal. If we see why are we working, it is not because of anything else. We just want to secure our next meal and we just want a roof over our head. And if we are following the Varnashrama Dharma, in which the Vaishyas, where they are always in protection of animals, uh, this unrest and this starvation will never exist. We are seeing, we have been reading so many times in news, and especially the research articles have now started discussing how we are seeing record production of various kinds of agricultural produce. Just last year, 2024, was the record production of maize, of corn, of wheat, and yet that year was also the record year where many people were starving. So how can this be possible? Foodstuff is being produced, but people are starving. So there is an inequality. The food is not getting distributed to the hungry mouths. It is just accumulation. So we have seen in Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami is telling us that too much accumulation is also not very is not conducive for devotional practice. So devotional practice के लिए तो we should not be accumulating stuff, we should not be a hoarder. But even for a civilized society, there should not be accumulation of foodstuffs when citizens of the same country are facing hunger. And this has been seen. We have seen so many famines, artificially induced famines, which have been induced by various governments. For example, the Great Famine, which took place in 1918 during the First World War. The British, when they were in India, they had forced the people in Bengal to produce wheat, to produce rice, and to produce cotton and indigo to support their war machinery in Europe. And this induced a famine in Bengal, where there was a record death. There were 1 million people who had died. And you can see such artificially induced famines not just in India. There is a famine going on in Congo. There's a famine going on in Uganda. There's a famine going on in Chad. And UN is basically a shame. It's an embarrassment that we have a machinery body called as United Nations, but first of all, there is no unity. And the entire reason why UN was set up was the entire goal, although it was altruistic, it is not following any of its goal. It is the cause of all the misery. We have got so many countries, we have seen so many instances where the countries which are producing the same item, the same agricultural produce, they are not able to consume it. It is not getting shipped, and there is hunger everywhere. So this should be avoided, and this is only possible if we have a government, if we have an administrator who is following religious principles to govern over the kingdom. If religious principles are followed, if the center of any governance is Bhagavata Dharma, is the religion of Godhead, only then there will be no altruistic, or there will be no ulterior motive behind any activity. Everything will be done to uphold dharma. Everything will be done according to religious principles, and the religious principles will be taught or will be given to the administrator by the intelligent class. Next is the fourth class, that is Shudra class. Shudra class is less intelligent and should have no independence. They are meant for rendering service, sincere service to the three higher sections of society. The Shudra class can attain all comforts of life simply by rendering service to the higher class. It is especially enjoined that a Shudra should never bank money. As soon as the Shudras accumulate wealth, it will be misused for sinful activities in wine, women, and gambling. Again, in italics, it is written wine, women, and gambling indicate that the population is degraded to less than Shudra quality. The higher castes should always look after the maintenance of the Shudras, and they should provide them with old and used garments. A Shudra should never leave his master when the master is old and invalid, and the master should keep the servants satisfied in all respects. The Shudras must first of all be satisfied by sumptuous food and clothing before any sacrifice is performed. In this age, so many functions are held by spending millions, but again, but the poor laborer is not sumptuously fed or given charity, clothing, etc. The laborers are thus dissatisfied, and so they make agitation. Again, the entire reason for agitation is because everyone is dissatisfied. There is a lot of production, there's a lot of wealth being generated. Again, last week I had seen a news article which was appearing that just from 2020 2024, within 4 years, 1% of the top 1% richest people in India, their wealth increased by 62%. So the Indian GDP is growing, wealth is being produced, but yet we are seeing so many people extremely poor. And we just cannot blame the everyone, the entire machinery for this. It is only because the governance is not proper. It is not according to the Bhagavata Dharma. The Bhagavata Dharma tells us what to be done by various classes, and it is recommended that wine, women, and gambling should never exist in any population, because that is not that will basically pollute, that will basically contaminate the entire mind, the entire religious principles. The religious principles that stand on the four pillars are will be knocked down if we are basically indulging in wine, women, and gambling. The next, the Varnas are, so to speak, classifications of different occupations, and Ashrama Dharma is the gradual progress on the path of self realization. So, the Varna is the different occupational duty, and Ashrama is basically how we progress in self realization. So, one is for the community and other is for the self. Both are interrelated, and one is dependent on the other. The main purpose of ashrama dharma is to awaken knowledge and detachment, and the goal of our life should be detachment. The brahmachari ashram is the training ground for the prospective candidates. In this ashrama, it is instructed that this material world is not actually the home of the living being. It is very, very essential that this is told to these kids in the brahmachari ashrama, that this world is not the true home. Only once we are detached from, we detach ourselves from this material world, only then can we think about our self realization. The conditioned souls under material bondage are prisoners of matter, and therefore, self realization is the ultimate aim of life. We should be basically telling the children in our house, the children that we meet, that we are all conditioned souls and we are all bound by the clutches of Maya, and we are basically prisoners of matter. And these, although the prison can vary from one person to the other. For example, the children of Ambani, they might be having a golden or a diamond prison, and the children of a poor man could be having a iron prison. It is still a prison. Even though they have got different prisons, they have got different luxuries in the prison, it is still a prison, and one should not basically try to remain in the prison. It is foolishness. So the whole system of ashrama dharma is a means to detachment, and that is what we have been doing, basically by the blessing of Mataji, by the blessing of Kamaloshan Prabhuji, and by the blessing of Guru Maharaj. We have been given the duty, the service in Nagpur ISKCON to preach to children. So Jagat Anvaya is preaching to their parents, and I have been preaching to the students, to the small children, and there are many small children over here, from the age of 3 to the age of 15, and there are around 30 to 50 students who come, children who come every Sunday, from 10 to 12, in Nagpur ISKCON temple. And I have been trying to tell them, to teach them the principles or the purports of written by Prabhupada and various acharyas. And it is the goal of, it should be the goal of adults, that they should teach children, their own children, and other children as well, that in the brahmachari ashram the main goal should be detachment. One who fails to assimilate the next yeah one who fails to assimilate the spirit of detachment is allowed to enter into the family life with the same spirit of detachment. So, one who fails to assimilate this spirit of detachment, one who fails to gather this spirit of detachment, is allowed to enter into the family life with the same spirit of detachment. Therefore, one who attains detachment may at once adopt the fourth order, namely the renounced order. So, if in the brahmachari ashram a person is able to assimilate or to basically understand the means of detachment, that person need not go to the next the ashrama, that is grahastha ashrama. That person can directly go to the renounced order, and thus live on charity only, not to accumulate wealth, but just to keep the body and soul together for ultimate realization. So, in the sannyasa order, in the renounced order of life, one should only sustain oneself on charity and should not accumulate wealth. There should be enough wealth just to keep the body and soul together, so that that person is able to realize its their ultimate realization. Household life is for one who is attached, and vanaprastha and sannyas orders of life are for those who are detached from material life. The brahmachari ashram is especially meant for training both the attached and the detached. So it's the starting ashrama, and in that ashrama, if one experiences detachment, they can directly progress to the fourth order. And even in the household life, so say for example, if one progresses to the household life, that is grahastha ashram, we are all in grahastha ashram as of now. Even in the grahastha ashram, we should be practicing detachment. His Holiness Vedvyas Priya Swami Maharaj says that if someone is doing a job, if someone is in a job, that person should be responsibly engaged. That person should be responsibly attached. तो उतना ही अटैचमेंट होना चाहिए कि काम हो जाए और जो बेसिक नीड्स है वो पूरे हो जाए, एंड उतना ही होना चाहिए, वो धागा उतनी पतली होनी चाहिए ताकि तुरंत कट जाए. द नेक्स्ट वर्स, 27th वर्स. दान धर्मान् राजधर्मान् मोक्षधर्मान् विभागशः स्त्री धर्मान् भगवत धर्मान् समासव्यासयोगतः. Translation and purpose. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. He then explained by divisions act of charity, the pragmatic activities of a king, and the activities of salvation. Then he described the duties of women and devotees, both briefly and extensively. Purport: to give charity is one of the householder's main functions, and he should be prepared to give in charity at least 50% of his hard earned money, as instructed by Rupa Goswami. A brahmachari or a student should perform sacrifices. A householder should give charity. A person in the retired life or in the renounced order of life should practice penances and austerities. Those who are those are the general functions of all the ashramas or orders of life on the path of self-realization. And we see this. There are so many troubles taking place in nowadays in these days. We are seeing that houses are being broken just because there is a difference of opinion between the daughter-in-law or the in-laws, the parent-in-laws, or even between the sons and daughters and the parents. It is all because of continued attachment to the material world. In the retired life, that is in the vanaprastha or in the sannyas ashrama, the people in these ashramas should practice penances and should practice austerities. So, by practicing penances and austerities, automatically the needs of the body reduce. So, we don't, if we are in the ashrama, we should not be hankering for material comfort. We should not be hankering for material luxuries. We should not be hankering for generating wealth. So, if these hankerings, if these attachments towards comfort, luxury, and wealth are cut, automatically our needs will reduce. And if our needs reduce, we do, we don't have any problem. So, whatever is given to us is basically acceptable is basically acceptable by us, and automatically Lord will provide. So, if we are training our children properly in the Bhagavata Dharma, that is the Dharma of Varna and Ashramas, it becomes their duty. They will feel that it is their duty to support the elders. It will be the duty for them to support the various Varnas and various Ashramas by following the religious principle, and thereby the various family problems will automatically reduce. In various yugas, we have seen there was no family problems. Only in Kali Yuga, we are seeing there are anath ashrams. There are vridhashrams. We should not exist. Those are the general functions of the all other ashramas or orders of life on the path of self-realization. In the brahmachari life, the training is sufficiently imparted so that one may understand that the world as a property belongs to the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. No one therefore can claim to be the proprietor of anything in the world. Therefore, in the life of the householder, which is sort of a license for sex enjoyment, one must give in charity for the service of the Lord. Everyone's energy is generated or borrowed from the reservoir of energy of the Lord. Therefore, the resultant actions of such energy must be given to the Lord in the shape of transcendental loving service for Him. In this one line, Prabhupada has explained the entire Bhagavad Dharma in relation to the personal aspect of the Lord. So we are seeing that there are the same principle is discussed even by Mayavad. It is discussed even in the Bauddha Dharma, but there is no personal aspect. So people make it becomes a very dry philosophy because it basically we are borrowing the energy from the Supreme Brahman and we are giving it back to the Supreme Brahman. But there is no personal there is no personal connection because. Uh, the entire idea of reservoir energy that itself is impersonal, but when we feel that Lord is personal, yes, he takes our service, he enjoys our service, and he reciprocates with our service, then it becomes very personal, and then it becomes very very juicy. It becomes like a fruit which has got no peel, it has got no seed, it is completely full of the mellow, the rasa, and that becomes very very extremely pleasant. As the rivers draw water from the sea to the clouds and again go down to the sea, similarly, our energy is borrowed from the Supreme Source, the Lord's energy, and it must return to the Lord. That is the perfection of our energy. The Lord, therefore, in Bhagavad Gita 9.27 says that whatever we do, whatever we undergo as penance, whatever we sacrifice, whatever we eat, and whatever we give in charity must be offered to Him, the Lord. That is the way of utilizing our borrowed energy. When our energy is utilized in that way, our energy is purified from the contamination of material inebrities, and thus we become fit for our original natural life of service to the Lord. So when we think that whatever we are using is basically for the pleasure of Lord, it is given to us, it is provided to us by the Lord, and we should return it back. Then our true natural life of service starts blossoming. So we should only take that much which has been kept in our portion. Rupa Goswami says this in Letter of Devotion, that we should be only hankering, or we should be only partaking that amount of stuff that has been allocated to us, and should not be plundering from other person's share. We have 4 minutes more, so we'll quickly finish one more paragraph. Again, it's a very long purport. So we'll just finish Rajadharma till 9:15 and then we can end the class. Rajadharma is a great science, unlike modern diplomacy for political supremacy. The kings were trained systematically to become munificent and not merely be tax collectors. They were trained to perform different sacrifices only for the prosperity of subjects. To lead the prajas to the attainment of salvation was a great duty of the king. The father, the spiritual master, and the kings are not to become irresponsible in the matter of leading their subjects to the path of ultimate liberation from birth, death, disease, and old age. We have got the fathers, the spiritual masters, and the kings. They have a very tremendous role to play in one person's life. As parents, it's our moral duty to train our children so that they exit themselves from the clutches of janma murti jara vyadhi. Even the spiritual master, a spiritual master is a true master is one who trains their students to exit this cycle of birth and death, and king is also having that the same responsibility. When these primary duties are properly discharged, there is no need for government of the people by the people. That is democracy. In modern days, the people in general occupy the administration by the strength of manipulated votes, but they are never trained in the primary duties of the king. And that is also not possible for everyone. So, even if training were to be provided, it is not possible for everyone. So we see that we require license for everything. We require license for driving. We require license to start a pharmaceutical shop, or to any shop. We require license to start a business. We require license for everything. But those who are elected to the various high posts in government, they have got no license. We don't ask them for show me your license, whether you have the license to rule over the government or not. Do you have the required necessary at least academic qualifications or moral qualifications to rule over the government? No, we don't ask, because it is all in shambles. The entire democratic system of for the people, by the people, of the people, will always there is always this demerit in that, that it will be always, it can be easily manipulated in modern day. Yeah, we have seen this. Under the circumstances, the untrained administrators play havoc to make the subjects happy in all respects. तो जो मन में आया वो करेंगे. On the other hand, these untrained administrators gradually become rogues and thieves and increase the taxation to finance a top-heavy administration that is useless for all purposes. So taxation increases and government starts earning money based on taxes, and it becomes top-heavy. It should be bottom-heavy, but it becomes top-heavy. Actually, the qualified brahmanas are meant to give directions to the king for proper administration in terms of the scriptures like Manu Samhita and Dharma Shastras of Parashara. And we see that Prabhupada had written several letters to Lal Bahadur Shastri, to Indira Gandhi, and explaining that what should be their dharma. Did they heed to his advice? No. A typical king is the ideal of the people in general, and if the king is pious, religious, chivalrous, and munificent, the citizens generally follow him. Such a king is not a lazy, sensuous person lying at the cost of subjects, but alert always to kill thieves and dacoits, not to be punished, directly kill the thieves and dacoits. The pious kings were not merciful to dacoits and thieves in the manner of nonsensical ahimsa, non-violence. The thieves and dacoits were punished in an exemplary way so that in the future no one would dare commit such nuisances in an organized form. So even random theft and random crime, uh, that used to happen, but organized form to kabhi nahi hota tha. Such thieves and dacoits were never meant for administration as they are now. So Hare Krishna, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. We will stop over here, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Srimad
We will
Bhagavatam ki
continue.
jai.
Jai. So we'll continue from the purport in tomorrow's class, Mataji. And hopefully we will be reading the first verse of the Bhishma Supreme. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनन्तकोटि वैष्णववृन्द की जय श्री प्रभुपाद की जय.
Hare Krishna, very wonderful class. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
Krishna, माताजी. कैसे हैं
हाँ
माताजी?
उधर, हाँ ठीक हो प्रभु जी। उधर बहुत ठंडी हो गए लगता है।
बहुत ठंडी है माताजी, सुबह सुबह बहुत ठंडी रहता है
हाँ
यहाँ पर.
अच्छा, अपना ध्यान रखिएगा प्रभु जी।
Yes, माताजी.
हरे हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण, माताजी. माताजी, I will end the class for everyone.
Yes,